Well, humans, just a quick one before we get going with the video. If you're in Sydney and you're keen for a bit of a wargaming festival, myself, Snake Eyes, a few of the other boys from Grump, we're all going along. There is a Wargaming ANZ player party on Wednesday night, 1st of November in Sydney. You can see all the details up there on screen. You can RSVP simply by going to the link that I will attach to the info on this video, and that'll give you a big old hand if you want to get there, do a bit of schmoozing, meet a few of the people, and just do the business in general, and meet me and some of the boys. Love your work. Thanks very much for watching, and enjoy. Well, hello there, humans of his earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and this is a video I didn't think I would have to make so quickly after just doing a full video on the Predator UM. So I'm not going to be breaking things down here by numbers. Well, not particularly, and I won't be showing you big graphs and all that kind of thing. I want to address something that's been popping up in a few of the forums and a few of the YouTube comments sections, and that's the idea that this is a bad tank. And I just want to say I grabbed this tank. I have great numbers in this tank across all the servers that I play in and all the accounts I play on, and I want to talk about why, and I want to talk about what some people are really missing with this tank. The negatives that people focus on: it's got terrible gun depression and it's so tall that you can face hug it, are absolutely correct. But there's a lot of tanks like that that exist in the game and they manage to survive anyway. And that's because there are positives to each tank. And this one has some massive positives. And it's very, very unique. And I think a lot of people are missing out on why the Predator works and why it is so unique and why it does so well. So I picked it up, grabbed it, played 3 games. These are those 3 games. And I've just let them roll so you can see what's going on. Unedited. Now, the big thing for me that makes this tank so unique, quite apart from, and can I just address this really, really quickly? If you have a tank that has not got good gun depression, that does not have good gun depression, sorry, and is very, very bad when face hugged, I'm going to go out on a massive limb here and say that you should probably not use it in areas that are really, really hilly and against tanks that are going to run up and face hug you. And if you manage to stick by those 2 simple rules, you'll actually have a really good time. And I'm going to show you exactly what I do with this tank in this game. Now, the reason it's unique and the reason it works for me and the reason I get really good damage numbers out of this, I'm running it basically on all but one of the accounts between 1800 and 2000 average damage, topping out towards 2k in one, topping out below, and in another account, and I've played this tank a lot, in another account I've got it, it's at like 1600 or something. Rubbish. There's a reason for it. It's a unique tank. It's got an auto loader, but most of the auto loaders we have at this tier that come in here, like the Chi-Ri for instance, the French auto loaders, all these guys with guns that fire very, very, very quickly, and this gun fires exceptionally quickly, they have a huge struggle because their armor profile is so crap. So they are gifted generally with better mobility so that they are able to get the ball across the line by moving around the map and getting shots in. And we ran out of friends here, obviously, and I do mark down a Dracula here, not so much because I'm not happy with the way he played, but because he went alone, like no one within 250 meters of him, and got spotted and wrecked in the first 30 seconds of the game and left us a tank down, and then it all just crumbled apart from there. So those tanks have auto loaders that are able to do a lot of damage, just like this tank here, but what they don't have is armor. Now, the Predator has very strong armor frontally. Sure, against tier 8 tanks, you're going to get penned frontally and you're going to struggle to pen them, but I don't understand why that's such a negative, because you're a tier 7 premium tank. Like, it's not meant to pen. Tier 8 heavies are meant to have good armor that is tough to pen, and you struggle to pen tier 8 heavies frontally. Like, colour me unsurprised. That's not a surprise. That's something that you should be taking account of when you play the game. And it's something that I certainly take account of when I'm playing the Predator. But those other tanks have to use mobility, so they're going to get to the flanks and they're going to look for opportunities to put 3 shots in really quickly. This thing can get those shots off really, really quickly. 1.5 seconds is the time between shells. So that means in 3 seconds, you can completely unleash a full 3 shell clip. 3 seconds. It's really, really quick. So all you've got to do is find a gap in the traffic that's 3 seconds long, and you can really go to town. And those 3 shells will represent a very solid investment in terms of damage. And why is that important? Because, well, you're allowed to play a peekaboom thing without really struggling with the reload and everything that an autoloader normally deals with. So you've got 3 180 hit point average alpha shots. That's a total of 540 damage if you can get it all out in 3 seconds. And then you only have like a 10.5, 11 second reload. That's better than driving an IS or some Russian derp gun. And it's far more likely that you're going to get that shot off and keep it in because your gun's actually quite effective. And you have the armor profile when called upon to push in. As you saw on Himmelsdorf, I wasn't afraid to get up there, and obviously we ran out of teammates, but I wasn't afraid to get up there and have a crack. It doesn't mean that you leave yourself wide open, but what you can do is play a frontline peekaboom tank and comfortably get all 3 shots off so you can do big damage. And that's it. That's the secret to the Predator. You've got 3 seconds, you can do 540 alpha damage in those 3 seconds, and you've got the armor profile to bounce if someone sees you in 3 seconds. You've got no side armor. But guess what? There's a lot of American tanks that have no side armor. There's a lot of every tanks that have no bloody side armor and still make a living in the game. I just don't understand where the whole negativity about this tank comes from. It is a tank that I think is beautifully balanced. It has issues. Those issues include complete lack of gun depression, which can make life tough in certain situations. But if it had gun depression like there, you saw that shot didn't go in because no gun depression. And if it had gun depression, then it'd be too strong. Like, it would be overpowered. So it doesn't have gun depression, and you just have to waddle around the battlefield making use of the best features of the tank. There is something just absolutely mind-numbing about the way people look at these tanks and say it's missing X, therefore it's not good. I didn't say the tank was overpowered, I said it was strong. And it is a strong tank. In the hands of an experienced tanker, they can totally roll out and do good damage in this tank and bounce shots and fulfill a bunch of roles on the battlefield. And that's what the tank should be doing. And it's an exciting tank to drive. It's different. There is nothing else at its tier that can compete with, again, just 2K, like pumping out some damage, being aggressive when you need to, being very, very standoffish if the other team lets you, and just filling them up. This is a tier 8 game. We're going to push up, and you're going to see some of the negatives of the tank come to the fore. Like, it's going to struggle to penetrate certain tanks. So I put it in a position where I just ignore them, pretty much. I just ignore them. Like, there's a T-32 and their AT in this game who get up on this hill here, and I just take shots of opportunity at them. I lose a hit point trade with the T-32 at one point, and so I just leave him the hell alone, and I shoot the targets that are in front of me. And this is why I love this tank, because you got hit points, you got 1,320 hit points. It's not huge, but for an auto-loading tank at this tier, that's absolutely plenty. I mean, there's your IS. You got more hit points than the IS. You've got a better gun than the IS. It's much easier to hit targets with this gun than it is with that Russian. And he's in a tough spot, and I'm just going to sit here and use the time that is left on the clock. There is something else I want to talk about here as well. The side armor of the tank is terrible, and I'm going to put shots of opportunity in that T-32. There you go, I won that trade. Fair enough. I'm going to lose the next one, so then we stop trying to win it. We just leave him alone. You've got no side armor, so don't do a lot of side scraping. Side scrape, of course, you know, you want to side scrape to a degree. and it's because it's your best option. But don't side scrape offensively in this tank. Here we go. We lose this hit point trade. Yeah, just leave him alone. Go back in. Look for targets over here. And just keep pumping damage out and doing your best. It's such a simple tank to play, and I don't understand why people don't like it and people don't think it's a good tank. It boggles my mind. The Vindicator's a crap tank. It is literally a poor man's SU-152. It has no gun depression versus the SU-152. It has 2 heat rounds instead of an AP round. So it is completely unable to shoot through a fence or a wall. It can't shoot through spaced armor. The armor profile, once you've figured it out, is so easy to pen both frontally and from the side. And you see me do something there where I pulled out and I knew I wasn't going to spot him up because he was sitting there stationary, so he'd have his camo on. And I just pulled out until I got spotted, light bulbed, so I knew he was there. He's still looking at me. There's the penetration issue that we talked about. That's what I wanted to show you. The pen's bad, so, you know, maybe fire more APCR. I should have fired APCR there. This is just far away a much better tank than the Vindicator. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. It's 530 hit points in one quick burst. We've got the hit points to deal with that. We're able to do it on the front line. Most of the autoloaders at this tier just quite simply cannot do that. They don't have that kind of capability. And your DPM is every bit as good as that T32 there, and better than just about every other tier 7 heavy. The only other one that coincidentally is competing with it is that Tiger. So there you go. That's the Predator UMIFDA, whatever camo you've got on it is what it's going to get called. Another 2,000 damage game. Nothing special. These aren't special games. It's just, I wanted to show you guys that you can roll this thing out and be really, really successful with it. And it's a really good tank. It's not overpowered. It's not super strong. But don't be an idiot. Don't put it in situations where you're setting it up to fail. Like, if it doesn't have good gun depression, fight on flat surfaces. If it doesn't have strong side armor, don't try and side scrape against tier 8 TDs. And if that means that you think the tank's bad, maybe have a look in the mirror and realize that could be a little bit of user error. That's about as salty as I'll get. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Love your work, look after yourselves, and stay safe on the battlefield.